Hello everyone, Lux here, and I hope you're having a very nice morning, like I am currently. This is my second attempt at recording this video, mostly because the last version I made, I just consistently let my ADHD take the reins, and I ended up giving a very, shall we say, long, drawn-out version of this video that doesn't need to be that long and full of waffle. So this version of the video is going to try and be more condensed, and I'm going to try and stay on topic as much as possible, which, for those that know me personally, will know that is very difficult for me to do sometimes. So, you might be asking, what is this video about? What does the title mean? Well, basically, what it means to me is I want to talk about what my journey into filmmaking has been so far, kind of what I have learned alongside that. Now, I've already made a video about the films that I've worked on in the past. God, when did I make that video? That video must have been like a year or two ago. So before Burlock incident, I believe, if I'm correct on that. I might be wrong. I could be very wrong on that. So anyway, let's talk about how I started. It all started like watching stuff like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. My dad is a very huge Lord of the Rings and Star Wars fan. He absolutely loves the sort of the older movies and stuff like that. I even have the box sets right here as an additional thing to showcase. So we have the 3-movie box set. I love, it's the extended edition, by the way, so I absolutely love when I do get a chance to sit down and watch all 12 hours of Lord of the Rings. It's a very fun activity for me personally. Can't say it is for anyone else who's joining me on that. We've also got the Star Wars box sets, the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. As a personal favourite and something that I grew up a lot watching, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. I absolutely love this trilogy of films. I've not watched them in ages, but I always enjoyed Spider-Man as a character. So a lot of my superhero media was actually like Spider-Man growing up. Like stuff like Ultimate Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. Again, like I said, the Spider-Man trilogy. I specifically love the second film a lot, to the point where I think it's something like the Spider-Man 2.1 movie or something like that. It's like the one with like deleted scenes and stuff. I do have some conversations with people about like what they like about, say, stuff like Marvel or superhero genre as a whole, and it always to me comes back to talking about Sam Raimi Spider-Man and how camp it is, but also how good it was for the time it came out. I absolutely love it, and it's just a very fun thing to watch, I feel, and it's just fun. It's just fun. Which will make it even more shocking to know is that I actually did not want to study film originally. And this was mostly in my final 2 years of high school. I think it became an option. I might be completely incorrect on that. But for year 10 and year 11, you get your chosen subjects, and you have to do those alongside the core studies of like English, maths, science, and stuff like that, and PE. Can't forget about PE. Physical education, for anyone that doesn't know. I chose to do film studies because I thought, oh, I like film. Yeah, I like watching films. Hopefully this entire thing will be about watching films. It partly was, but it also was about learning the theory behind films and what certain aspects of the filmmaking business are, such as the marketing behind them, the cinematography, stuff like mise en scène. Now, I might be conflating that with A-level film studies, based on memory, so feel free to take that with a grain of salt, what I'm saying. I might be completely wrong on that. But for me, film studies was something initially I did not enjoy. I didn't enjoy watching the films and then trying to take meaning from them at the time, which is crazy nowadays because I do that with everything I watch. I always try to keep an eye out for the key details. And instead, I actually really wanted to become a chef and do catering and hospitality, which I did really well at. I got like a distinction star in my practical exam because I made a really good 3-course meal, and I really enjoyed that. It was the best. It was an amazing thing that I made. I made calamari, a paella, and a banoffee pie, which the banoffee pie at this point, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything else that might have been more theme appropriate, but I went with a banoffee pie and people liked it. Obviously, there's that back before I was vegetarian. I do miss calamari and paella, but I can make a vegetarian paella, so it's all good. Back in high school, I originally wanted to go more down the line of being a chef or cook, um, because I felt that that's something I was able to do practically with my hands. And for those that know me, absolutely love being hands on with anything that I'm working on, whether that be camera stuff, general like kind of labor, I suppose. Like I like being hands on with what I'm doing, and I like being able to get something done in real time rather than writing about it and then seeing the result of that later on. Now, obviously speaking, film is a lot of hands-on stuff, especially when you're on set on production. But also a lot of that in the pre-production is also writing stuff so that stuff can then happen later on. That's what paperwork's for. That's what admin's for. That's what script writing's for. So for me, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, I guess I'll do this. I guess I'll do that. Why not? So when I did film studies, we didn't actually do any filmmaking as far as I'm aware. I think there was one option to make a short film, but that was only for a very select amount of people that were completely sure that they wanted to do it. Because at the time we didn't have equipment for doing filmmaking. We didn't have cameras. We didn't have boom poles. We didn't have SD cards. Really, we didn't have a lot. I believe the AS photography course in sixth form, we had access to cameras and SD cards, but that was a very I think they were like the very basic Canon cameras. I can't remember exactly what they were, but yeah, that's the idea. So to me, at that point, it's no surprise that I didn't enjoy film GCSE film studies because I didn't really get to do anything hands on. Essentially, I think I made like a script. That was about it. That was inspired by State of Decay, but that was about it. Honestly, there wasn't much else to that course that I enjoyed. I the people I had it with were fun for the most part, but I didn't really engage in it as much as I think I would nowadays. Yeah, it was one of those things where like I feel like with me I struggled with studying a lot. School was never my strong suit. I'll be very honest about that. School was never my strong suit. I passed a good chunk of my stuff, and other stuff I just failed. GCSE maths took me a while to actually, finally get the passing grade for, and I did that in my final year sixth form, but that's a story for another time. So yeah, film studies for me, I think I got the passing grade in that, and it was good enough. Do you know what I mean? I was like, okay, I kind of get this. And then A-level film studies came along, and I was like, you know what? I've done GCSE film studies, why not do this? And also A-level media studies. Obviously, these are two separate subjects, but they were both headed by pretty much the same teachers. Or at the very least, for the media studies, they both had 50-50 responsibility, while one of them was fully just film studies. I might be misremembering that, but that is how I remember it, and I absolutely adored these teachers. These teachers were great. Obviously, I also want to preface this was my A level film studies teacher was the same GCSE film studies teacher. I want to preface that, but they were great for A level. They were great. I learned a lot more about filmmaking and certain aspects like cinematography, iconography, auteur theory, stuff like that. And it allowed me to actually kind of look at films more critically and understand certain contexts. One of my favorite subjects to learn about was actually, I think it was like the 1950s Hollywood, and with films like Johnny Guitar, Rebel Without a Cause, and like the like the Red Scare around that time in America. And I think that was a very interesting, fascinating period of time when I learned about it from the film perspective of it. It was very interesting. And it really allows you to understand how politics has a massive impact on the creative business, depending on how entrenched it is. And I think nowadays that's something that we should especially look at, because I think it's just very important to look at how politics affects our everyday lives. That's my soapbox for this video. And alongside that, A-level media studies was something I especially enjoyed because we looked at a variety of different forms of media. Video games, movies, ad campaigns, magazines, stuff like that. It was all stuff that at the time, I didn't appreciate as much, but now I'm like, wow, that's actually helped me understand a lot more about how politics is viewed, how different forms of media can have different political and social implications. The cultural impacts that they can have, especially, I think was just a very fascinating time to learn about film and media. And that ultimately informed the way that I look at stuff now and how I want to make film and media, essentially. And that's ultimately what has made me into kind of the filmmaker I am today, with making different films that I've directed or written, and also stuff that I have worked on with other people, and how that they go about creating these worlds with a script. I think it's very fascinating how someone's brain can have different ideas that translate on the script to then the visual form of the project. And I think that is something I absolutely love. I think is just inspiring, if I'm being very honest, being very blunt. So that obviously went on for like, I think 2 years, and I learned a lot about myself with how I approach storytelling and film and media, and ultimately that was something that I very much wanted to pivot towards. The reason I didn't do catering is because the sixth form the sixth form that was local to me at the time did not have the equipment and resources to actually do an A-level catering and hospitality course. I would have had to have moved all the way to Norwich for that, which, it's funny, I've moved to Norwich anyway, but oh well. I would have to have moved all the way to Norwich for the City College to do that, and I just kind of was like, nah, that's too much effort, that's too much work to do. So I ended up going with the film and media route, and that, I think I'm very glad that I went with that, because that's ultimately something that I enjoy doing. It's what allows me to also learn how to do this as well, and understand how stuff works, which I'm very grateful and appreciative that I had the opportunity to do that, and I also am now here where I am today. Now, let's move on to my university years, because my university years were my very most developmental years, I would argue, where I learned a lot about myself. Learning that I'm a neurodivergent queer mess, if I'm being very honest. And I absolutely love it. I've made a lot of friends this past 4 years, and I've had so many fun opportunities working on some very special, incredible projects by such talented people. I can't sing their praises enough. It's just honestly amazing, and I absolutely love it. I originally applied to do film and television studies, because I thought that didn't have many different implications. I thought, I'd still be doing film stuff, right? I'd still be making films. No, actually. The production course, while I was in my foundation year, 2021, actually, the production course became a thing while I was on my foundation year, I believe. That's always the story I've been told. So when I actually started my degree in 2022, I basically saw the opportunity to change over to a different degree, essentially. So I did that, and that was something that I was like, okay, yeah, this is much better. I'm learning a lot more about what I want to do. I'm learning about script writing. I'm learning about editing. I'm learning about camera work. This is all stuff that I want to learn how to do, and is what is important to me personally as a creative. So what this essentially meant for me is that, hey, I'm going to switch over to this degree and I'm going to stick this out for the next 3 years now. And I did that. And it allowed me to really make some very special connections with people. I also want to state that in my foundation year, I met one of my best friends, Elliot, who is the director behind Infinity Channel. I'm very excited to see what the final result of that's going to be. We finished filming that, I think, either early this year or late last year. But I'm very excited to see what Elliot decides to do with that. I'm just looking forward to that as a whole. Very excited to see the final version of Infinity Channel. Because I know he's spent a lot of time, we've all spent a lot of time working on it. We're going to all be very relieved when it's finally finished, and it's just going to be very awesome to see, honestly. When it comes out, I can't wait to go and see it. And it was through meeting Elliot at I think it was like a filmmaking quiz, I eventually made connections with my good friend and also best friend, Sam, who is the founder of Psychic Visions. They're an extremely talented, awesome artist and filmmaker, especially. They made they made Lesbian Vampires from Outer Space. I actually have a poster that I'm gonna show you. So that's my poster that I got at the premiere of Elvos. But basically, I signed up to join the crew for Elvos, and that was something that I learned so much about with filmmaking, from a very indie perspective. I was camera op for like pretty much 95% of that film, and I also edited part of the first act for it. And I was such a amazing journey to be a part of, and it really taught me a lot about working on these big projects and filming these big projects. The DOP, Tristan, amazing guy, one of my best friends as well. I absolutely love working with him. Everyone on that crew I absolutely loved working with, and I've made a lot of friends just from Elvos as a whole. That's also how I went on to join Psychic Visions as well, because Sam reached out to me and was like, hey, really like your camera work. Would you want to join Psychic Visions? And I've not looked back since. For the past 2 years that I've been... 2 years last month, I believe, if I'm correct on that. It has just been film after film, project after project, and my god, it has been so much fun to do. It's been so much fun to work on, and I absolutely love working with people that are so incredibly like-minded, and even when they're not like-minded, even when they have completely different opinions, I find it so fascinating to work with people, and I absolutely adore working with my friends, especially. It is an amazing thing to do. It's a very privileged position for me to personally be in. I openly admit that. So obviously then the rest of uni proceeds as usual. I'm doing my degree. I'm doing these independent short films alongside my degree as sort of an extracurricular. And I ultimately learnt so much that I was able to work at a higher level on my actual degree as well, especially with editing. My editing module was my favorite module to do, and I learned so much about video editing that it's now become a mainstay passion for me, and I absolutely adore editing and color grading, and I'm trying to learn sound mixing as well, so I can be very diverse in my skill set, let's say. Less than a year now, I've graduated from uni, and that is with a 2-1 and upper second. And I'm quite proud of that, personally, as someone who famously hated studying, who didn't really like school. I'm very proud that I managed to get my degree, and that's something that I'm very, very happy with. Yeah, it's something that I'm very prideful of, it's something I'm very happy about, and it's something that I absolutely adore. The fact that I managed to put up with uni for 4 years and do so much alongside that, and I think everyone should be proud of the degree that they got, I hope. In terms of like my main inspirations for film, Recently, it's been a lot of David Lynch. I love his work. I basically watched the entirety of Twin Peaks last year in December. I've watched Blue Velvet recently. I've been meaning to watch Mulholland Drive and a lot of his other filmography, because I find the way that he does visuals to be very fascinating, very interesting, and I want to absorb as much of that kind of media as possible, and I absolutely love it. It's amazing, honestly. Another inspiration that I've had since my first year of uni has been Markiplier. Now, I've watched a lot of his like sketch content, and I've always found it to be quite fun. And I've never at that time, mostly at the time, I never thought about how it was made. But watching the like say the behind the scenes of like A Date with Markiplier, Who Killed Markiplier, A Heist with Markiplier, In Space with Markiplier, all those like different miniseries, which miniseries does not do it justice. They are huge. They are massive. A huge workload, I can imagine. And watching the behind the scenes of those has always been something that I've enjoyed watching, and seeing how stuff was made and the fun that can be on a set. And that's something I always enjoy a lot about filmmaking and media production, especially. And that goes absolutely triple for Iron Lung recently. I went to go and watch that on, I think, release day in the UK, and it was just an amazing experience, and I'm like still thinking about that film, and I think the impact it's going to have on a lot of independent filmmakers, myself included. I'm not going to lie. There's a project that I'm making currently. I'm not going to give too many details about yet, but I'd like you to keep an eye out on these channels. I will be releasing something at some point to announce this very special project of mine. But regardless, I am very excited to see where independent filmmaking is going to go now, especially with how successful Iron Lung has been, and what Markiplier's plans are. Because there's a plan to make it a lot easier for independent filmmakers to actually sell their films, distribute them, because unfortunately the film business is a lot of hoops to jump through, which is quite annoying. Even as someone that doesn't do YouTube as much, if you're just an independent filmmaker, it can be a lot to have to like manage and just deal with as a whole. Anyway, it seems like that's all the time I have for today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and please like comment. Talk to me about what your inspiration behind filmmaking is. What do you like about it? What made you interested in starting filmmaking, if that's something, or whatever art discipline that you do. What made you interested in doing it? I hope we can have a conversation about it, and I'd love to learn more about my subscriber base, about what they enjoy. If they like this kind of video, I like it. I like being able to yap about things that I'm passionate about, and it's very enjoyable to me to talk to the camera and talk about film. Anyway, my name has been Lux. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, and good evening. Bye bye.